Vince Vine. Sunday, August 8th, 2021. How y'all doing today? We've been talking these little porch talks. I've been telling you I want to talk to y'all a little bit about debt, credit, money, that sort of thing. And so let's talk a little bit about it. 'Cause I don't know if anybody ever tells you all this stuff or not. And if they don't, somebody needs to be telling you. Maybe save you some heartbreak and some heartache that the rest of us had to go through at one point in time or another. And first thing I'd tell you about credit and debt is avoid it. As much as is possible. Now, none of us, unless we win the lottery, we're not going to be on cash basis. So we're going to have debt to buy stuff like cars and houses and that sort of thing. But I would say stay away from installment debt, stay away from credit cards as much as possible. If you're using credit cards, I don't know, I've got good credit now. I haven't always had. I would expect that some credit cards probably have a 25 or 26% annual interest rate. So if you've got $1,000 balance, you're going to pay $250 or $60 in the next year on the interest on that balance. And that's not exactly right, but it's close enough for the purposes of this conversation. It might be $220 because you are reducing the balance as you go by some little bit, and your interest rate is based on the remaining balance. So when I tell you $1,000 is $250 a year, that's not exactly right. But point being is they're outrageous interest rates, and you open the catalog and it tells you only $15 a month on your Visa card. And yeah, that's from now on. If you make that minimum payment, I don't honestly know if you'd ever pay off anything because you're just not making much headway on the balance because you're making the minimum payment. So what I would tell you on credit cards, first off, is avoid them. If you can't avoid them, try to pay the balance when it comes in. If you don't have one, or if you've got bad credit, let's talk about that for a minute because I've been down this road. You got bad credit and you can't get a regular credit card from Visa or MasterCard. What you can do is you go out and get what they call a secured credit card, and you'll put $200 or $300 in their bank account, and they'll give you a credit limit that's equal to or almost equal to whatever your balance is in that savings account. When you do that, I would say use that credit card and go out and buy $10, $15, $20 worth of stuff this month. Nothing else. Bill comes in, pay the bill in full. You do that every month for a year, they're going to start upping your credit limit. And before you know it, they're going to waive the need to have it secured with any kind of a savings account at all. And the really good part about that is that the interest rates will start coming down. The credit cards that I currently have, I don't think any of them are over about 7%, and most of them are 0%. And you got to get really good credit to be able to get that. And that 0% only lasts for a certain period of time. So let's say if I get a Home Depot card and or let's not use Home Depot, let's use Visa. Let's say it's 0% on balance transfer for $10,000. Okay, now I can take my credit card from Home Depot, transfer it to that Visa card, and I got it at 0% interest instead of 25 at Home Depot, but I got to pay it off in a certain length of time, or they will start charging interest, and that interest will normally be higher than what I would ordinarily pay for the same credit card. If now it's 7%, in that situation where the balance transfer has expired, it might jump to 15. So be aware of those things. When you're buying cars, and when the time comes and you'll start talking about buying houses, let's talk about cars first. The salesman's job is to sell you the most car he can sell you. His commission checks and his pay is based on how much he does in sales. And if he can sell you a $40,000 car instead of a $20,000 car, then he's going to make more money, and he couldn't care less if you can pay for that car or not. They're all going to tell you, more than likely, that you qualify for more than you can pay for. Don't let them talk you into that. Just because they say you qualify, don't mean you can make the payments. You don't want them taken away from you. Repossessions are hard to get off your credit record. I've been down that road, and it takes years to get that off your credit record, and it takes years of hard work to get that off your credit report so that you can get decent credit when the time comes. When you want to buy a new car, you want to be able to get it at an interest rate that you can afford. Your credit rating is so much more than just your credit cards. It affects your car insurance. If you've got a really good credit rating, your car insurance is going to be cheaper than if you've got a really bad credit rating. And all this is based on numbers, based on statistics, and they've done all these studies, and people with bad credit ratings tend to be higher risk, and yada, yada, yada. And next thing you know, you're paying a lot more for car insurance. And up until you're 25, that's going to be something you got to live with anyway. But after 25, you can start working that down by having good credit. My truck, and I'll just give you real numbers. My truck is basically, it's a bottom of the line Ford F-150 that costs $27,000. I go over at that Ford house, and they're going to do their dead level best to sell me an F-250 Platinum for $75,000, and they're going to sit there and tell me that my income will support that. And I suppose maybe I could make that truck payment, but now I'm talking $1,100 or $1,200 a month versus less than $400 a month for a truck payment. I don't need that. I don't need that $70,000, and that ain't to say I don't like them, because I do. I dearly love a really nice truck, but the point is I don't want that stress and that pressure of trying to live with how to make that car payment. We've got a young lady in our office, and she commented one day that her husband's truck allowance at his job was $900 a month, and that it almost covered his truck payment every month. And I just could not conceive of having a truck payment that was over $900 a month. It was less than $1,000, but it was almost $1,000 a month. And that's before he buys insurance or gasoline to put in it, or oil or tires. It's costing him $1,000 a month if it never moves out of the driveway. And that's just an obscene amount of money for a vehicle. So I would tell you, if you're going to go buy a car, go know before you go what your maximum amount that you can spend is, and don't get away from that. Don't let them sweet talk you. Don't let them show you all the bells and whistles, and Lord knows they can. And my truck doesn't even have a backup camera in it, and I wish it did. But at the end of the day, I knew what I wanted to spend when I went over there, and I just had in my head I wasn't going to spend any more. I can take that same $700, $600 a month I'm saving on that truck, that had I bought what they wanted me to buy, me and Grandma can take some pretty nice vacations on the money I save. So it's all about knowing how much money you got and how best to manage that money so that you get the maximum enjoyment out of it, instead of some damn salesman that's sitting over at a car lot trying to sell you a car. When you get to buying houses, they work a little different. Right now, the interest rate is at an all-time low. It's probably 3% for a 30-year note right now, and that's as low as it's probably ever been. It might be just a shade over that. It might be 3.1%. So you get ready to go buy a house, and if you've never bought one before, you can go what they call FHA. That's where the government writes an insurance policy that you're going to make your payments. And you can probably get in that house for 3% down. So if the house is let's say it's a $300,000 home, you got to pay 3% down. That's $9,000. And you take that 9,000. Now you got closing costs on top of that. That's usually going to be some few to several $1,000s. I would say if I'd be prepared for $15,000 or $16,000 for a down payment, because you got $9,000 worth of down payment plus you got closing costs. Sometimes you can roll the closing cost into the note, so you back down to just the $9,000, and you'll pay out that closing cost over the life of the note. The problem with all that is because it's your first house and you've never bought one before. I guess everywhere in the country, I don't know of any state that would not. They have what they call MIP, and that's what that is called mortgage insurance premium. And that is the insurance that they charge you for that FHA guarantee that you'll make the payments. And that insurance will add somewhere in the neighborhood of several $100s to a house payment every month. So, if nowadays a $300,000 house, it kind of seems to be the norm, and that's just ridiculous to me, but it does. So if it's a $300,000 home and your payments are going to be, I don't even know, let's say $1,800 a month, well, now you're going to need to add another $300, $400, $500 for your MIP insurance. And the only way to get away from that MIP insurance is to pay 20% down on a house, so that you don't have to have that. That's not likely on your first house or two or three. It takes a while to build enough equity and roll all that equity over each time until you finally have enough that you're not paying MIP insurance. But there again, you go talk to a realtor or you go talk to somebody in some housing subdivision where you got builders reps acting as real estate agents, and they're going to tell you qualify for a lot more than you qualify for. And they may tell you, oh yeah, as long as your house payment doesn't exceed 30% of your gross income for the month, you're okay. Well, maybe not, probably not. And they don't care if 6 months or a year down the road, if you get foreclosed on and kicked out. They got their commission check. They ain't no skin off their nose if you now have a foreclosure on your record that you got to deal with, or you've lost your whatever down payment you put on it. If it's $9,000, you just lost that $9,000, and you're back to square one. But now you're back to square one with 2 strikes against you because you got a foreclosure on your record. So those are just a couple of things to think about. Like I say, long and short of it is avoid credit as much as possible. Pay as you go. If you do have credit cards, do your best to pay those bills in full when they come in. Your grandma and I, from the very first trip we ever took together as a couple, we've always had our trips paid for before we ever left the house. That way we did not come home to a mailbox full of bills that we ran up while we were traveling. Hotels, flights, all that sort of thing was paid for. The only thing we had to pay when we got home was, meals and whatnot that we might have put on a credit card while we were eating out or something of that nature. We just didn't have much, and usually we'd try to carry cash to pay for that stuff. So when we got home from the trip, we didn't have much left to pay. Just a few things to think about. I would sum it up by saying, live beneath your means. What that means is don't spend all you got. Don't figure your budget to the point that you're spending all you've got. Next time around, we'll talk about trying to save a little money, because that's really the trick that sets you on the road to some sort of financial security. We'll talk about that later, I reckon. Y'all have a good week. Pawpaw loves you, and appreciate y'all visiting my porch. We'll see you.